Today I want to go over the draft from Game 2 of the HLE series earlier today in the LCK, and I think this is a really interesting one because HLE put together a very nice comp, and I think if they continue to draft like this with good themes and good priorities, I think personally that they could be the team to take down GenG in the summer split. Obviously entering playoffs, GenG is going to be a pretty considerable favorite over the rest of the field, but Hanwha Life has been really consistent and really good throughout the entire split as they finished up the regular season, or at least have with one game left, are currently 14-3. They're a really strong team with really good players, and I think if they draft like they did in this game, they're going to have a really great shot in the playoffs to take down GenG especially. So jumping in on B1, it's going to be Renekton opening the draft. Obviously, this is really terrible. Already you're saying that you don't really want to win the game and that you're perfectly content picking useless champions in the top lane. The reason why Renekton is really bad is because he doesn't scale at all and he loses lane to most champions. So this champion is picked essentially so people can get priority on the grubs early game, which to be fair, Renekton can often do, but the grubs are just an overrated objective in the first place and not really worth as much as people think they are. So in that sense, Renekton's entire point of power in picking him in the draft is pretty much zero when you think about the fact that he doesn't win lane, especially with the K'Sante locked in. He's not going to win lane really hard. He's not going to outscale the K'Sante. He's not going to win in the side lane. This champion doesn't really have a primary strength, and he doesn't really have a good theme to build around in the draft. HLE go ahead and first rotate Corki and K'Sante, so this is really good. As I've been talking about recently, the best simple draft strategy to employ is counter what enemy just picked and pick the next OP. HLE did this really nicely, even though they didn't exactly hard counter the Renekton. They picked something that does fine in the lane and outscales him and acts as a really effective frontliner with the K'Sante. And obviously they took the Corki as well, which is obviously, in my opinion, the highest priority pick in the game. Super broken champion. We've been over this 1,000 times. Really solid first rotation from HLE. And then, I don't actually know what this team name is, Fear X. They go ahead and second rotate Lilia and Yone, which is really solid. As a duo, as a mid-jungle duo, you're really strong, especially at the level 6 mark. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the Lilia really play hard around mid lane. The only problem now is that paired with the Renekton, this team comp in this first phase really doesn't make any sense. It's really counterintuitive to first pick Renekton, a hard early game champion that falls off by 25 minutes, and then second rotate champions that are pretty much come online at the exact time Renekton becomes useless. So I think that it's another showing of why Renekton's not good to pick is because you don't want to build around his theme, which is early mid-game skirmishing. And so in this sense, it's much better than the Lilia and the Yone scale and play for team fights. They're solid champions, but with those two picks, the Renekton becomes really lost. Anyways, HLE round out first phase with the Ivern lock-in, which is really great to see. This champion has been broken for ages. We see him occasionally, but he's not really super meta, which is unfortunate to see. This champ is absurd for multiple reasons. Primarily, his scaling on his shield ratios are insane. Daisy is effectively another champion, and all of his items are really cheap. So he hits that 2-item power spike of Moonstone and Redemption really early in the game, and as soon as you hit that spike on Ivern, you're looking to fight, and you're pretty much online as a champion moving forward. So that's a great first phase from HLE. And I'm really happy with how that played out. They go ahead and R4 Smolder, which is a bit risky considering the enemy bot lane hasn't been locked, but it's not like they're actually going to hard counter the Smolder lane with a kill lane or anything like that. The Smolder is also really good because it pairs with the rest of the team with scaling. Essentially what HLE is saying is, yeah, we're down to sack some stuff, some early game objectives, let them have the grubs, it's not that big of a deal, and come the 25-30 minute mark, we're just going to win the game, and there's not really anything the enemy team can do about it. They go ahead and round out with Kai'Sa Alistar, which is just really bad. Maybe there's some potential to kill a Smolder in the early game and have some pressure on him there with the Alistar, but considering the counter pick Poppy support comes in on R5, I think this Smolder has a really free lane phase to just kind of sit and scale up. He's going to be really safe because the Poppy can just guard him from Alistar the entire lane phase, and I think that HLE's comp here is really, really nice. Even though the Poppy Smolder pairing isn't great in and of itself, just the fact that the Poppy counters the Alistar is enough to make Smolder really effective, because he obviously just wants to spend the early and mid game stacking up, getting items, and then once he hits that stack threshold, he just starts to one-shot everything. So the only thing I would really do to maybe make HLE's comp a little better is replace Cassante with a more dedicated frontliner. In that, I would just go with maybe Ornn or Scion or Malphite, something like that, that's just a really hard tank. Cassante is mostly picked in pro play these days because he's just quote-unquote Cassante and does his things, not because he's actually a really great frontliner. Champions, like I said before, you can also throw in Cho'Gath and Zac and some others into that mix as well. Those types of champions would act as a much better front line for the back line, the hyperscaling back line you have with Smolder, Corki, and then the Ivern throwing his shields over the top there. But either way, Cassante still acts as a fine front line, and you also have the Poppy to bolster that as well. So it's a really, really nice basic front-to-back scaling teamfight comp with long range, and you can tell as soon as Ivern hits 2 items, as soon as Corki hits 2 items, and as soon as Smolder hits 2 items with that stack break point at 225, HLE is going to just instantly win the game in a snap of a finger. And it doesn't really even matter if they fall behind in the early game, since Renekton doesn't scale at all and Kai'Sa doesn't scale as well as Smolder does. Even if Fox end up getting ahead in the early game, they're really the only real path to success for them is if Yone gets really snowballing. If he gets like a couple kills early game and is really dumpstering the lane, maybe Fox can pull out a W here. But really, I think that HLE's comp is just really well rounded. It's got great scaling and just really, really nice to see. Basic front to back team comp. They're not trying to do anything special here, and it's just really well put together with solid champions. None of these champions are completely useless, and the fact of the matter is Renekton and Alistar are both useless champions. In addition, the current Kai'Sa build is, while it's not awful, it's definitely not her best variation, which is just full AP, long range poke Kai'Sa with her Ws. It's really tragic to see no one playing that, but it is what it is. So if we take this draft into consideration and the fact that HLE is 14-3 now and has been looking really, really good the entire split, I think that they could take down GenG come playoff time. In my opinion, honestly, I might even put them as favorites to take down GenG and win the summer split in the LPL. They've been really strong before the entire split, and it seems even like they're ramping up toward the end here. They have really solid drafts, as we can see this game, and I would not be surprised at all to see them win this split. Obviously, like I said earlier, GenG should probably be considered favorites, but I am very confident that HLE can have a really, really strong run in playoffs, and assuming they qualify for Worlds, which I think they will, I would definitely be scared of this team if I were any foreign region currently. Thanks for watching. See you next time.